So, you want to start drawing, but should you start drawing digitally with a drawing tablet or an iPad? Or physically, just in a notebook? So later on in this video, I'm going to compare physical versus digital and say the advantages and the disadvantages of both of them. But I want to kind of first start by saying I think you should probably start with physical, despite the advantages and disadvantages of both. I say that because pretty much everyone's going to have some paper and pencils around the house. And I mean, if you don't have a pencil, just like go to IKEA and nick one. Like, no big deal. Yeah, like you'll be able to get a pencil for like next to nothing. You've probably got paper around, so you can get started straight away and you don't have to invest in one of these two things. And also, the kind of big advantage with physical is you're not having to deal with learning new software or any of that sort of stuff. So it's a good way to kind of get started and just not worry about anything other than putting pencil to paper and drawing. So that's why I'd always recommend starting with physical. But once you've got past that first stage of, getting the basics down and you feel like you're at the stage where you want to stick with drawing but you don't know what to go with, well, at that point you might consider going digital. And I would recommend, again, not going straight to the iPad unless you've already got an iPad and an Apple Pencil with you. I'd say even if you've just got an iPad without the Apple Pencil, like, don't go out and buy the Apple Pencil at this stage. At least I wouldn't recommend that. You might want to if you want, but I'd recommend going with a drawing tablet first. Just getting the cheapest one you can find. This one was like £30 on Amazon, and it's what I started off with. And I mean, yes, you're not going to be getting the exact same experience with this as you're going to be getting with the iPad, but they do share a lot of similarities, especially if you're going to be using Photoshop on the iPad, which I wouldn't really recommend, but some people might go that route. I mean, some people might not like drawing with a stylus at all. Some people might like the feel of paper better. So before you drop all of that cash on this, I'd recommend going to the middle ground first. I'd say that if you are going for an iPad, you should absolutely get an Apple Pencil. The simple reason for me saying that is that this is the only stylus that you're going to be able to get for the iPad that has pressure sensitivity. And at least for me, the ability to be able to push not as hard and have it, be lightly coloured in or have less opacity, and pressing down and having it be bigger or having more opacity is a feature that I would really, really miss. I mean, even the drawing tablets had that ability, and obviously if you're drawing with pencil and paper, you're going to have that just naturally. So yeah, I'd recommend not cheaping out and going with any of the other offerings. I mean, if you really don't care about pressure sensitivity, then sure, but for me at least, I absolutely had to go with an Apple Pencil. I'd also recommend going with Procreate. Yes, Photoshop is an option and you can draw in it, like it is an option in there, but Procreate, and I'm going to do again separate videos on Procreate is really, really well designed for the iPad. It's basically made with the iPad in mind, whereas Photoshop obviously came from desktop and went over to iPad. Photoshop and the iPad, at least for me, is a lot more confusing. It feels like it's missing a lot of the features that are in the desktop variant, and there's also the fact that it's not just made for drawing. It's also made for, editing photos. That's kind of its primary role, and a lot of other things. So Procreate is £10. It's probably the best £10 you can spend in relation to drawing. I'd absolutely recommend it. Even if you do use Photoshop, I mean, I've been using Photoshop for ages now, for years and years. I still took the time to learn Procreate because it's just that much better when it comes to drawing, so I definitely recommend going for that. But anyway, yeah, now that I've talked about that, let's take a step back and talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of physical versus digital. So starting off with digital drawing, the advantages you get are that you've got unlimited colours to work with as well as unlimited brushes. And when I talk about unlimited brushes, I really mean unlimited brushes. You can literally make your own brushes and have them styled however you want. You also get as many pages as you want, as big as you want, and the only limit is the storage of the device. You also have the ability to undo and erase, which I really love. I know some people just like drawing over what they've already done. If you do, all power to you. There's also colour picking, which I don't think anyone wouldn't use. Colour picking is such a useful feature. It saves having to do those little lines that you do on the book to like see what colour the pencil is and kind of compare it to what you've already got. You don't have to do any of that. You can just put your finger on the iPad, pick the colour, and you know it's going to be the exact same colour. And if you bring the iPad up to bed and you don't want to have the light on, you can draw in the dark. I don't know how many people are going to care about that, but it's a feature, obviously. The disadvantages is there's more of an upfront cost to getting something like a drawing tablet and especially an iPad and Apple Pencil. If you are going with physical, obviously that cost just isn't there. You've probably already got the materials that you need at home already. There's also the learning curve to understand the software and in some cases the hardware too. The devices also have to be charged, and at the low end, when you're talking about a drawing tablet, you do have to plug it into an external computer. So you have to factor in the cost of a computer if you don't have one currently. And there also will be the inevitable tech issues that will come up eventually, especially for Photoshop. Adobe's going to have tech issues. And then when it comes to physical, the advantages are the fun of holding pencils and brushes and, mixing paint and all that sort of stuff. The second thing is that you can draw on pretty much anything. You're not just having to draw on the screen of the iPad or on the computer. Another advantage, which may not be such an advantage for other people, it's not something that I particularly like, is the kind of mess of it all. The fact that you can, get paint on your hands, just that whole kind of experience of just, getting in with the painting. Also, as I've mentioned before, it's just cheaper to draw physically. It's also more permanent, so when you are drawing, you are taking that effort to be more careful as you're drawing. And you can also draw on a massive canvas at not a big cost. Whereas if you're drawing digitally, yes, you can make the canvas size as big as you want, but at the end of the day, you're only going to be drawing on a 10-inch screen or a 12-inch screen or whatever size monitor you have. The disadvantages are that there's a cost per painting, even if it's a relatively low cost. There also is the fact that you can run out of supplies, especially when you're talking about painting and you don't have a particular paint that you want to use. It's also harder to share a good quality version of your painting online, because if you've got a big piece of paper, it's obviously going to be harder to scan it in. You might just have to take a picture of it on your phone, which may not look as good. There's also the fact that if you were doing physical art, especially something like painting, you're going to have to, arrange a desk to use and, put some sort of sheet on top of it that you don't mind getting dirty. And paint's going to get on your hands and all that stuff. Some people like that. I personally don't, so that is also a disadvantage for some people. And if you are painting in a book, you also have to worry about, colours bleeding onto other pages and that sort of thing. Whereas with digital, obviously that's just not going to happen. So basically, whether you go with physical or you go with digital, both of them are going to have their advantages and disadvantages. As for which one I go for, I just prefer digital, especially the fact that I can undo and, colour pick and stuff like that. I just love that from digital painting. Whereas I know a lot of people like physical painting, so there isn't really one that's better than the other. I would recommend, as I said before, starting with physical, but that doesn't mean that you have to continue with it for, the rest of your career. But which one do you use? Do you use physical or do you use digital? If you were using digital, do you use either one of these, or do you have like a drawing tablet connected to a computer that's got a screen on it or something like that? Be sure to let me know which one you use down in the comment section down below. Or if you haven't started yet, which one do you want to get started with? So yeah, let me know that down in the comment section down below. And I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all stay safe out there. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.